and this is something I've never told you before. I think like a month before our wedding, I dialed my ex's number.
Why would I have? What's there to be anxious about?
Right, of course. Only crazy people have anxiety.
And the way to get to LA is through
Las Vegas.
And so what did we do in Vegas?
Well, what does everybody do in Vegas? Bada-bum.
Welcome
back to our podcast, Unhappily Married. In the first episode, we kind of discussed how our loneliness led us to this very codependent relationship that wasn't really the healthiest.
Yeah.
And we want to pick up from there and just talk about how we dated in this religious world and this religious environment, and that kind of pressured us to enter into a marriage very young. Do you wanna hop in?
No, I think you did a great job on take 3.
Yes, this is our take 3 because I could not get into the groove of things the first couple times. It's not so easy.
No.
Recording a podcast is not as easy as it looks, but we are slowly getting into the groove of things. I apologize. I mess up. I messed up twice.
I'm just kidding.
We almost did get into a fight about that. Just we kind of fight about everything.
It's not a fight. It's just feelings get there's tension.
There was a little tension, so
right,
but it's okay. We have cleared the air now that we've had a good laugh about it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We can jump into it. So I guess just setting the stage, right? So we spoke about last week a little bit of the loneliness and the codependency and the start of the relationship. Super fast recap. And we kind of ended the episode where we had like this falling out with my roommates and we kind of lost touch in that community. We ended up moving in together.
Right.
And that's kind of where this episode starts.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we ended up moving in together probably like, 9 months into our relationship?
Less than a year afterwards. So we started dating in September, just kind of set the stage. Mm-hmm. We met in September. We actually started dating.
October.
We actually didn't start dating until October.
When I convinced you to ask me out because you were secretly in love with me.
And then we moved in together in end of May, I believe it was like end of May. So that's
soon.
Like 9-ish months, something like that. But I don't know exactly where you want to start, but I'd just like to start with like this little story about maybe it explains a little bit about where we come from in this religious world and just kind of how the relationship started, right? So
the background information is definitely important.
Yeah. So like from my perspective, I have a good relationship with my father, and he was like supporting me a little bit through college and things like that. Mm-hmm. And because I was moving in with you, I didn't want him to support me anymore because I didn't want...
You knew he wouldn't approve.
I knew he wouldn't approve, so I didn't want to like take his money and for him to like not approve.
You're so nice.
But well, this is also after like I had a conversation with your family where they were like, we're not going to help you out at all.
Right, I was going to say the opposite for me. Like, I wanted my family to continue helping me, and they were like, no way, if you guys are moving in together without being married, we're cutting you off.
Right.
And, I was like, no, please keep helping me.
Yeah.
Whereas you were like the noble one, and you're like, no, I don't want to do this to you because I know it's not something that you would approve of, which is very nice of you. But,
yeah, and so in that, I just want to say this one piece. So in that, when I was speaking with my father about this, one of the first things that he says, and I think it's a relatively reasonable response of somebody of his religious beliefs, he said, well, why don't you just go quickly get married?
Right.
And, you don't have to do a ceremony or anything like that, but just go get married in a religious environment.
Which is so crazy because that is a huge deal.
Yeah, it's a really big deal
to just get married.
But it's really like a off the shoulder kind of thing. It's like, oh, just go get married,
right?
Like quickly, religiously,
which is
like, no
ironic
big deal.
Because that is kind of what we ended up doing. But we'll get into that later.
So I just like setting the stage for everyone. Like that's kind of like the vibe and the tone of everything, right? The tone very much at this point was like you moving in together, you're getting married, whether it's like right now in like an Orthodox environment or whether it's later on at some other point, but like you're getting married. So like the path was already set and we were just walking it, if that makes sense.
And even if the path wasn't necessarily set, it was just like the expectation, like, you know, my family didn't approve of it, so it was like, well, if I want to be on good terms with my family, then I have to do this
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
you know, to get in good with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that it definitely felt like the path we had to take from there.
Yeah.
But that was not our intention whatsoever.
No.
By moving in together, I don't think we had even discussed getting engaged at that point. Like,
I think the conversations of engagement
after the parents.
started after all of these things, right? We were like, oh, we could get financial aid.
Right.
The families would be off of our back.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge factor. Like, we were like, oh crap, how are we gonna pay for school now? Like, we're gonna have to take out so many loans, and
Right.
there was financial incentive to get married because, as it turns out, if you get married, you basically can go to college for free. I don't understand it, but that was the situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, after this whole debacle, I think engagement was on our radar, and it was something we were talking about. But it had not come naturally.
Yeah.
And yeah, it felt like a move that we were forced to go into. And that's not to
And-
say I wasn't excited about it.
Sure, yeah.
Right, but I know you were in a very different place, and
So-
I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so just to add to the piece you were saying previously, right? So thinking about the lack of community that we had, thinking about the codependency and the loneliness that we were developing, you know, people were saying, oh, just continue down this path to be accepted or for it to be the
Right.
right thing. And, like, of course we were going to start going down that path even if we didn't necessarily fully think about it, right? And I'm refraining from saying we didn't want it because I don't think we understood as much, but I think we would have needed to like really understand what we wanted individually before making this really big decision together.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's,
we
that's
didn't
just,
have we didn't have enough time or space to think about it on our own.
exactly.
And that was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we had come to that conclusion on our own. Maybe we would have, but the fact is we weren't given much of a choice. And you know, I will say that summer that we moved in together, I had a great time. Like,
Yeah.
I look back and I think that was the peak of our relationship, really, really and truly, because we were blissful, we were naive, we had a break from school. I know we were both taking summer classes, but I think we were only taking like 1 or 2 each. We had some free time. Yeah, it felt like a fresh new start because we were living together. We didn't have the roommates with this negative energy. Like,
Right.
you know, we would ride our bikes every day and play Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it was
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
And it was very cute. It was a very blissful time. But the problem is that under all of that was this just bubbling, boiling pressure. And I don't recall, but did we get engaged that summer?
No, we didn't get engaged that summer. We got engaged, I
In the
believe, over
winter?
the winter break.
Okay.
Yeah. So I also think it's important for me. So you asked me like how I felt about being in this moment and things like this. I think that year was the best year that we had because we were able to spend a lot of time together
Right.
one-on-one and really learn about each other and things like that. But the overtone of the whole year living together that first year was very much this path that I was describing before that was kind of just laid out in front of us. So while we were getting to know each other more, we were also, at least I felt, we were also just getting engaged in the wintertime or in the
Right.
summertime. And then we were going to get married at some point after that. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
very much like, it was very much following, just following that path, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to say that a million times, but it very much felt like we were following that path.
Yeah, and
that,
you know what? If I recall correctly, I think our family actually wanted us to get engaged that summer and get married in the winter. Do you remember that? And we were like looking into like winter wedding venues, and I was like, "That's like 6 months away."
Oh, you're right. I do
yeah,
remember
and I was
that,
like, "That's
yeah.
6 months away. Like, that's insane." Like, it was so stressful, especially because we were in school. We
Yeah.
didn't have time to be planning a wedding. We were both in really hard years
Yeah.
that year, and our classes were really difficult. We didn't even have headspace to be thinking
Yeah.
about a wedding, but I do want to say that I can say this now looking back, but at the time I was very excited. I really was, because at that point seemed very easy between us.
Yeah.
And we always talk about how we're not on the same page now, but I think back then we really were on the same page because
I agree.
yeah, we were both studying. We both were taking our studies very seriously, which I know is very unlike me, but I had committed to it and I said I was going to be dedicated, to my engineering courses. And, I think because we were on the same page, we both had no money. We both had to study. And then when we would relax, we would just hang out, watch a movie, hang out in bed, or cook together. We didn't really have many issues, which is like...
It's like... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, it was like, we didn't have money, we didn't have, like, friends or a community or really tons of things to do because we didn't even have time, right? We didn't have money
we didn't have time, yeah, for sure.
Because we were so focused on our school and we were just students. So that the little time that we did have and the little money that we did have was used up in a way that was so limited that we couldn't let our imaginations run wild and then not be on the same page.
That's true.
We were just we had 20 minutes
we were
here.
Limited to be on the same page.
Yeah,
I like that.
We had like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here. Mm-hmm. We'd sit down, we'd eat, and we'd watch
we'd
TV
eat
show
lunch
together.
Yeah.
That was all the time that we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe we rode our bikes to class every so often. I remember doing
on
that.
the weekends, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't have a lot of options, so it was easier to be on the same page. Kind of like if you go to a restaurant and there's 3 things on the menu, it's kind of easier to pick what you want to eat than if there's 50 things on the menu.
Right. But we were content. That's the thing. Like although we were limited, we were content, which is very interesting because my personality is very much like, I need more, I want more, I need to do crazy things, I need newness.
Yeah.
But that first year, and perhaps it's because our relationship was still new that it was okay.
Could
but
be.
I think we were both content, like even I get Snapchat memories all the time, of that first year of us living together, and we seem like genuinely happy. And the videos are cute, they're funny, we're laughing a lot. I know that we didn't have this super romantic start to our relationship, and I know that maybe I had felt like I was more in love with you or more into it than you were. But when I look back at that year, I just felt like we had really clicked and we were really getting along together.
Yeah. I do think overall that year was a positive experience.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later that pieces... So looking forward in that year, I knew we were going to get engaged.
Right.
I knew we were going to get married, right? These were things that we're looking forward.
Right.
And
not by choice, but just because it was going to happen.
Right.
It had to happen.
Yeah. And so we still had the space and the time to get to know each other in our own terms. But then the next year, when we felt more of the pressure to get engaged, or that we had gotten engaged, and there was pressure around it, at least speaking for myself.
By the next year, we were already married.
No.
We met 2015.
We got engaged that summer.
Okay, so we got engaged, to clarify, almost less than a year after we met.
No.
Because we met in September, we got engaged in August, I think.
No, you're mixing this up.
We had our engagement party September 4th, 2016. We messed up. We previously said we got engaged in the winter. We actually got engaged that summer that we moved in together.
Yeah, I was planning on getting engaged. Okay, so here's what happened. I was planning on proposing in the winter because we were going to visit my brother in Arizona, and I was gonna propose to you at the Grand Canyon. That was the original intention. Mm-hmm. Then what ended up happening after photographic evidence...
Yes, we had to... It's actually so sad that we just had to verify this because we did not remember when we got engaged.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Which speaks to the level of preparedness or excitement we had around this topic.
So what ended up happening was we ended up visiting my family less than a year after, but about a year after we knew each other.
Yeah.
We went to visit my family, and because we were visiting my family,
it made sense.
I knew logistically it made sense to get engaged then and be able to celebrate the engagement with my family and my friends.
And also because we had all this pressure on us as well,
right.
it was like, okay, let's do it a couple months before we're even ready to.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay.
I guess we spent that whole year with the weight of this wedding coming up. And I do remember, our families wanted us to get married sooner. We were just like, that's not going to happen. We don't have time for that. It was actually really sad because I didn't have time to plan anything, and I wanted to, like, I wanted to be involved in planning, but, like, first of all, like, my mom just, like, kind of took the lead on this because, I mean, it was probably really exciting for her, and I didn't have the time or headspace for it because of school and because everything just, like, felt super rushed. Yeah, I mean, you know, you're supposed to take joy in planning your wedding and you're supposed to be excited about it. And I think the fact that I didn't have a lot of say in planning it also took away from the excitement.
Yeah.
Like, even when I went to go pick out my wedding dress, I didn't want to have to go to multiple stores. So I made sure to pick a dress that very first time I went to the store.
Yeah, I remember.
And not only did I have to pick a dress from one place, but I also had to pick a dress that accommodated the religious aspects, the religious, what is it, like...
It's like a modest dress.
Restrictions, right, yeah. So I was not even able to pick my dream dress, which is like... Yeah, it was all just very sad. Like, you know, I have really big boobs, and that like played a factor in what dress I could pick or not, because automatically it could be deemed inappropriate just because of my natural body. There would be much more cleavage or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, we had an impending wedding that we couldn't even get excited for.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just there's a lot of pressure because it was a religious wedding from the religious people who were going to attend the wedding,
right?
That were like, I'm not going to feel comfortable, and
sadly that wasn't actually even from my side of the family, because my mom didn't care. My mom would have let me pick whatever I wanted.
I think a lot of this speaks to some of our issues with the religion that we grew up with, and the level of like the
rigidity.
level of like the level of strictness
that
the religion offers, and we also obviously wanted our families to be there.
I mean, we didn't want to piss anyone off.
Yeah, so we were very much conforming. But yeah, so we had to very much conform to what other people deemed appropriate for our religious wedding, and you know.
Yeah, not just the religious aspects, but also like, you know, in terms of what kind of wedding we wanted.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we had both spoken about how it would be really nice to have, like, this really small, intimate wedding.
In a barn with twinkle lights. That was my dream, with, like, maybe 3 rows of seating. Like, I hate being in front of people. I get so much anxiety. Yeah. I just wanted this small, intimate unionship, like, with just the people that were important to us. And suddenly, how many people did we have at our wedding?
Probably close to, like, 150.
I thought we had more for some reason. But
that's
still a lot.
I want to say about 150, maybe more. But yeah, I don't know where. You know, we invited some friends, and then our families invited.
Right,
a bunch
it was
of people,
like mostly
like,
just family extensions.
And I feel like a lot of like Jewish weddings are like your family kind of like. They're proud of you.
Yeah, they're showing you
off.
They're showing you off.
You know, so it's a little bit more. You're the centerpiece or whatever it is, but it's not necessarily for you the way that you wanted it, right? Like especially. You know, especially your mom planning the wedding, like, almost all of it.
Yeah.
It was not what we had wanted.
No, it wasn't. And that's not to say that it wasn't a beautiful wedding, because it really was. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and it was really nice, but it wasn't exactly what we had wanted.
And then that probably also added a lot to the pressures and the stresses of the relationship, because all of a sudden here we are, planning to get married and we're not really involved, and then all of a sudden here we are married and we're looking back, and it was fun and it was exciting, but it was also like a very much of this like awkward kind of feeling, I think. And
I also think like the fact that we didn't plan it made it very surreal. Like, I don't remember spending the year thinking like, oh, we're getting married soon. Like, it didn't seem real to me.
Yeah,
it didn't hit me until like our actual wedding day.
Yeah, I agree very much with that.
I remember when, like, and this was so awkward, but, like, people in college would be like, you're engaged? Like, what the heck? Like, I don't know if it was as awkward for you, but I like, hated telling people that we were engaged. I hated, like, showing my ring, because I was with a bunch of college kids, and it felt awkward. Like, they'd be like, what's wrong with you? You're 21 and you're engaged? Like...
Yeah, I don't think, just sharing about that, I don't think that I told a lot of people that I was getting married. I just don't think I had a lot of people to tell.
Right.
Also, I'm a pretty private person, so I'm not like
right,
I'm not just like sharing stuff. You have a ring, so you're
and you're
like it's more of an external show not in a showy kind of way, but it's whatever. It's more external. You can just kind of see a diamond ring, and you're like,
Right,
oh.
okay, I'll never forget when this guy in my engineering class was, like, talking to me, like, the whole class, and at the end, he's like, hey, so, like, do you, like, want to grab a coffee sometime? And I was like, oh my god, like, I don't even know how to say this. I wanted to say, like, maybe I want to say, like, I just have a boyfriend, sorry. But, like, there's a literal diamond ring on my hand, and I was just like, I'm engaged. And he's like, what?
Yeah, like, shocked
just...
more than rejected.
Exactly. He's like, why are you engaged? No, he didn't say that, but that was definitely, like, the look on his face, you know? And that's a reaction I got from most people, but yeah, I could see how you probably wouldn't tell anyone.
Yeah, I don't really tell. I don't really share stuff with people. I'm pretty private.
Also, I feel like dudes are less like, "Yo, what's going on in your love life?" You know,
yeah,
girls are like, "Oh, what's going on in your love life?"
Yeah, it's not gonna naturally come up.
Right.
Like you're gonna ask some other questions.
Yeah.
It's also in a sense so far removed because you're not gonna even get around to that kind of question.
Right.
But
you know what's interesting, because like we had two parallel universes, because in our religious universe it was so normal to be engaged. In fact, it was like, oh, you're already 21 and you just got engaged, like, girl, you need to have babies already.
Right.
Whereas like in the secular world it was like, well, what's wrong with you?
Right,
you know. And it's interesting to have those two different reactions, and it's like this internal like tug, like which one is right, like which one is normal, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if it makes sense to chat about this now. In the middle of the year, we ended up going to visit my brother, where I was initially planning on proposing.
And he lives in Arizona.
Right, and so he's in Arizona.
Right.
And then while we were in Arizona, we figured we would go visit some family in LA.
Yeah.
And the way to get to LA is through
Las Vegas.
And so what did we do in Vegas?
Well, what does everybody do in Vegas?
Not get married, but what did we do in Vegas?
What did we do? Do people who are not even sure if we want to get married, what did we do in Vegas? Bada-bum.
We got married in Vegas.
We did. We eloped and we got married in Vegas. And it was a super spontaneous decision. Like, I feel like we did not think about this at all, except for that we said, like, yeah, we can get some good financial aid. Like, let's just do it.
I think a big piece of it was that we knew we were getting married at the end of the year, so why not just bump it up and get the financial aid? And so that was like, that was the motivation to get married in Vegas.
And it was also, I mean, I think also part of it was to have that intimacy. I feel like part of the reason we did it was so that we could feel in control. And it wasn't like, you know, like, oh, they're making us get married. Like, we're going to take this into our own hands and we're going to decide to get married right now.
It's funny that you're saying that, because while it might have been a sense of taking control, we still took control on that path
on their
that
terms,
was laid out in front
for
of
sure.
us. And so we still were like, yeah, we got this, but it was like literally on the path that was laid out in front of us. So like, how much control did we really take by doing that? Probably not a lot, but yeah, it was.
But you know what? I remember that it hit you much harder than it hit me, and not in a bad way, but I just remember you like really taking it seriously, and me, you know, being the person that I am, not understanding things. I was like, what's the big deal? We signed a piece of paper. We went to a church. Remember?
Yeah.
It was so weird because we're Jewish and we went to a church and they were just like praising Jesus.
It wasn't a church. It was just a courtroom. But the person who married us,
she took us into this little church room. No,
I don't think it was a church room.
They had a cross.
They did.
They did have a cross.
Okay, I didn't see that. But all of a sudden in the middle, she gave us like a little speech, which was. Whatever.
It was cute.
It was cute, but it was also super embarrassing.
It was so awkward.
It was so cringy.
But it was cute, like that she tried to do something nice.
She tried to make it nice, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through the speech, she's like, whatever, something Jesus
Praise
Christ.
Jesus.
something like that, and we just both looked at each other and we're like holding ourselves back from laughing.
We wanted to laugh so bad
because it's just so not us, and then like. Imagine these two Jewish people all of a sudden getting married, like, in whatever.
And you got Jesus' stamp of approval over there.
Like so.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. I also always regret the fact that I didn't get dressed up for it. Like, I don't get dressed up ever. But, like, I don't know, looking back at the pictures, I'm like, darn, couldn't you have just, like, looked a little nicer that day? So when you look back at those pictures, it's not like... I remember, like, I put on my glasses. I was too lazy to even put in contacts. It's like, oh, we're going to get married casually, but I don't care to get dressed.
Yeah.
Which speaks to, like, the level of casualness, is that the word, that I felt about the whole thing. Because I didn't realize how serious it was. Like, to me, it was like, well, if we decided we didn't want to be married again, if we decided we didn't want to be married anymore, it would just be easy to annul, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a legitimate commitment to me, but I felt like the second we signed those papers, you felt like it was a real commitment.
I felt like it was really serious.
Yeah.
And I felt...
Which is normal. I think your reaction's appropriate.
Yeah, I felt like it was very serious and we were like making a real commitment to each other. And again, this might have been us trying to like take a little bit of control back, but not on our terms whatsoever. And so I think it ended up just backfiring on us. And we didn't really tell anyone. I think
we didn't tell anyone, yeah.
Did we tell my brother when we got back to Arizona that we eloped?
I don't think so.
I feel like we might have, but
I know
I'm not
I
sure.
told my mom.
Yeah, and then
she was really upset.
And then she was?
She was, but she was trying to be chill about it. I think she was like, I know I'm getting this big wedding, so and also because it wasn't like a rabbi wedding, so maybe it didn't count as much to them. But I think she was a little bit upset. I think she kind of like wanted to have been there.
Yeah, and then I told my dad at some point because he does my tax. Well, I do my taxes with him, but so
can't keep secrets from the tax daddy.
So at some point I told him, and I think I asked him not to tell my mom, but I can't remember for sure.
Do you think he didn't tell your mom?
I don't know. I have no idea. But none of my siblings knew, except for maybe that one brother in Arizona. None of my siblings knew until years later.
Yeah, it came out very casually. Like, we would just like randomly like mention it, and like someone would like stop and look at us and be like, "I'm sorry, you eloped in Vegas. Like, how did I not know this?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh, did you not know? Like, did we not tell you?"
Yeah, and I think that should have been a hint.
Yeah.
Like I know this is like a weird thing, but I think my mom's right about this. That like. She used to say something like, and this is like super random, but she used to say something like, if someone doesn't want you to know something, if someone wants to keep it a secret, chances are there's like a reason for it. Like, imagine like someone at school gives you something. This is just like a thing my mom would say. Like, imagine someone at school gives you something and says like, don't tell anyone. Chances are it's like not in good faith. Chances are they know it's wrong. And they don't want to get caught, right?
But what we did wasn't not in good faith. It was just...
I know, but I think that the undertone of it... I wonder. I'm not saying anything. I wonder... because we kept it a secret, I wonder if inside, subconsciously...
That we felt maybe it wasn't the right decision.
It wasn't right. Or... And that could just be... that either we felt that it was the wrong decision, or from a religious perspective, we knew that it would be looked down upon, and so we didn't want to share it.
Well,
I don't know.
On that note, I will say I actually had no doubts about marrying you at all until the summer that our wedding was coming up.
Yeah.
And I there was a part of me that year that was like, kind of saying goodbye to single life and being like, oh, you're never gonna get this back, and you are pretty young. Like, this is the third serious relationship you've had, and this is the last. There was like a tiny drop of that feeling, but for the most part, I was excited and I didn't have any doubts. But that summer came, and that was like a pivotal turning point. And I don't know if you, I'm sure you remember.
This is after we moved and we got our own apartment.
Yeah. So I don't remember much of that school year, but then I do remember the summer came around, we got a puppy, which was like my lifelong dream to get a puppy, so I was like really excited. And then I had this internship that I was supposed to start that was extremely boring. I hated it, and looking back now, this all makes sense, but I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom with our puppy. Just much like I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom when our first was born and now our second is born. But looking back then, you were not working and I was, just for like a week or two. And I was like jealous. I'm like, I want to stay home with the puppy, like, and you get to like lounge around with her, and that's what I wanted. And I did end up quitting my internship because I absolutely loathed it. I was so bored in there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then we were home together, just us. Now, while the year beforehand, the summer had gone splendidly, this summer was horrible. And I want to hear, before I share my experience with it, I just want to hear what yours was.
So I didn't put two and two together at the time.
Right.
But at the time, this is leading up to our wedding. This is probably a few months away, maybe 3-4 months away or something like that. At the time, I wasn't going to do an internship in the summer because we were getting married and there wasn't really going to be time. We were going to go on like a honeymoon.
I think you couldn't find one.
I probably also couldn't find one. But I think
I got really lucky with
Oh,
mine,
maybe I was gonna take summer classes, but I decided not to.
We
I
both
think that's
had
what
applied.
It was. Yeah, I think that's what it was that I yeah. So
Which by the way, I just want to say, like, you are literally the smartest, most hardworking person, and it was just, you know, a fluke. Like, we both had applied to so many internships, and the only reason I got mine was through a connection at school. Like, but yeah, sorry. Like, I wasn't saying like, oh, you didn't get an internship. Like, no. Like, it was a brutal market out there.
You're right.
So,
You're right. I didn't get an internship, and then I was going to take a summer class.
Yeah.
I decided not to take a summer class because
we were getting married. Right.
And then we were going to do a honeymoon, and I knew there wouldn't really be time for a summer class. So I didn't take a summer class. So so I was home. Yeah, I don't know at what point or why, but all of a sudden, like, I had like terrible stomach pain, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. It kept on getting worse. I tried like cutting out different foods or doing all sorts of different types of things. We went to a whole bunch of doctors and did a whole bunch of procedures.
You got an endoscopy.
Yeah, and
they couldn't find anything.
Yeah, and they couldn't find anything, and yeah.
But you were in like legitimate pain.
Yeah, I was in legitimate pain for several months.
You would be in bed all the time.
Yeah, I was in bed all the time, and I wasn't able to do anything, and then at a certain point, like, somebody had suggested doing meditation, so I started doing meditation, and then I would meditate for like an hour a day or 45 minutes a day, and for that time and for maybe a little bit afterwards, I would be feeling better. So like maybe for like an hour and a half a day, I would be feeling better, and yeah, and I was, you know, I don't know what I thought at the time, but looking back, I was obviously feeling a ton of anxiety about presumably getting married and what that meant and stuff like that.
But I think at the time you were so emotionally out of touch with what you were feeling.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and I had sensed that that's why you were anxious. You know, in the beginning I was worried. I was like, maybe something, you know, more medical is going on, because I'm the type to underplay these things and be like, oh, you're fine. And everyone's fine, you know, because if I feel bad, I don't think it's cancer or whatever. I just think like, oh, it's in your head, like, like, grow up, be a man, whatever. I hate that phrase, but that was my attitude in the beginning. And then I saw how much pain you were in, and I thought, I don't know, I started thinking something maybe legitimate was going on, and then I started to think maybe it's anxiety, which I would have never told you back then, because I knew that if I would ever mention something like that, it would probably diminish the pain that you were feeling. It wouldn't validate it, you know, to say that it's in your head, but also because you were very not emotionally in touch with this type of things.
Yeah, I don't think I knew, as little as I understand about anxiety now, I knew even less then.
Right.
So if you would have said it, like when the doctor said it's anxiety, I'm like, I don't have anxiety.
Right.
Like, why would I have, what's there to be anxious about?
Right, of course. Only crazy people have anxiety.
But yeah, I still have a very little understanding of anxiety, and I'm trying to understand it more. But and I have some anxiety now, and I still understand it very, very little.
No, you are so much of a different place now.
Yeah, back then, again, the doctor said maybe it's anxiety, and I said I don't have anxiety. Confidently, 100%.
Right, like it didn't even
not
cross
even
your
a
mind as an
possibility.
option.
Yeah, not even a
until
possibility.
You tried the meditation, and you're like, oh shit, maybe this is anxiety.
I don't think so.
Oh, you just thought the meditation worked?
I just thought the meditation was helping.
Just out of the blue, meditation's working, but you don't have interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that I thought at the time that I had any kind of anxiety, but like probably very clearly I was having anxiety about the wedding, but again, at the time I had no idea.
Yeah, so I had a suspicion that it was anxiety about the wedding and about us getting married, and that summer was just absolutely miserable for me. You know, I was taking care of our dog, which I know it sounds so silly now because we have kids, but like back then that was the first thing that I've ever had to take care of, and it was like stressful. I had to do a lot of the training. I had to like take her out a bunch.
Yeah.
And it was stressful. Like, yeah, again, it sounds silly now that we know how much harder it is to take care of kids, but whatever, for a college kid, it was difficult. But not only that, it's also because I had no friends. I had nobody. Even friends I did have lived nowhere near me. Um, and it was very lonely. It was just a very lonely summer. It was me and Dakota, and then you in the room. I just felt like I never saw you. I felt like you were always in the bedroom. You were always lying down. And obviously, I'm not blaming you because I know that you weren't feeling well. But it was a difficult summer. And then once that thought creeped in of like, oh well, maybe he doesn't want to marry me. Um, I started to have a lot of doubt about the marriage too. I'm like, this is not how I want to live the rest of my life, like the way that we were having that summer. And part of it was selfish too. It was like I don't want to get married to someone who's sick, and like this is just the rest of our marriage is like someone who's just sick. And well, I know that that's a very selfish thought, but like it was also like, well, if it is anxiety and he's not able to take care of it and he's not able to acknowledge it, it's like I don't want to just stand here and just wait, and just like sit around the apartment by myself 24/7. Um, it just didn't set the tone very well for going into a marriage and a wedding, and again, this was a couple months, it's like 2-3 months before our wedding. And yeah, that's when I started to have a lot of doubt creeping in, and I think that might have been the first time where I was like, are we compatible? And I don't know. I don't think you were anywhere near there yet.
I don't think so.
That was.
I don't think I had these types of thoughts until later.
Yeah, and I wish that I had acknowledged those thoughts, and even I wish I had shared them with you. But these were thoughts that I kept in for a year and a half before I even like mentioned anything to you. But I did feel those thoughts back then, and it was, to me, it was too late. Like we were already getting married. Everything was set. There was no room for doubt. And looking back, I definitely had that doubt, and I didn't want to acknowledge it. And talking about this codependency and just walking along this path, I just felt like everything was set in stone, and I just had to move forward.
Right. And figure it out later.
Yeah, and just to be like super vulnerable, this is something I've never told you before, but I think like a month before our wedding, I dialed my ex's number, and I had no interest. I had no interest in actually speaking to my ex or going back to him or anything like that. But I think there was something in me that needed confirmation to know that this was the right thing or this was not the right thing. And I like immediately hung up, maybe like 2 seconds after it rung. But there was like something in me that was like panicking. Like, is this the right thing? I think at that point it had really dawned on me, like we're entering a freaking marriage and there's no going back on this.
Right.
And it was just a scary time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like, I guess, you thought about this as much as I did.
I definitely did not think about this as much.
He did, just mentioning that. You guys are hearing it for the first time.
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for sharing that with me and I guess with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super open with you now, and I feel like I'm able to share so many more things with you ever since we started doing the counseling. And
I don't think I was very in touch with I was 100% not in touch with how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I think I 100% agree with you that I felt like we were on this path and we were just moving forward. And I was also struggling because I wasn't feeling well and I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. And
I don't even think you thought about how you were feeling. You're just like this loyal, committed person that you're just like, well, let's go.
Right. We already decided we're going to do this, so we're going to do this, and we're not going to second guess it. And
which is so sad for you because you didn't even have a chance to like stop and think about how you really felt. Like, at least I was thinking about how I felt, but like you didn't even get that chance. You didn't start even thinking about how you felt until years after we were married. So I'm sorry for that,
Yeah, I mean.
But I'm happy that you are getting more in touch with your emotions now.
Yeah, I definitely am getting much more in touch with these things. But yeah, I didn't think about it. That's the truth. Like that's the short version of it. I didn't think about it. I felt that I had to do this. I was not feeling well, and I didn't have the capacity to be thinking about these things. And we just continued forward.
And yeah, August 6th rolls around and we got married. We both showed up. We got married.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll end here, but ironically, it was a great wedding.
Yeah.
It was a great wedding for all the issues that went into it. It was very emotional, which I didn't think it was going to be because I didn't even know where I was at. I didn't know where you were at, and I think just like when I was walking down the aisle, and there were so many things about walking down the aisle that was just not my ideal. Like maybe the people staring at me, the people who were there. I had to wear a veil over my dress because a shawl over my dress, because I wasn't allowed to show so much skin. There were so many things in that moment that just wasn't it for me. But for whatever reason, walking down the aisle, it was super emotional. And I remember you were tearing up, right?
Yeah, but before, not to get into the whole technical stuff, but before when I came to you and you were sitting on the bridal chair, and I like pulled your veil down over your face, I was very emotional at that point.
Right. For people who don't know, at a Jewish wedding, there's a part where the bride sits in this chair and people can come to her for blessings. It's like supposed to be this very holy time, and then the groom comes with all the men, and they're like singing and hyping you up, and like.
And you just kind of go to her. You say something nice to her, and
and you lift up the veil, and then
you pull the veil down over your face.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you
and
pull
it's almost like you're claiming your bride.
I don't know what it is,
but it sounds silly, but it's a sweet moment. It was a very emotional moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just for all the things that could have gone wrong at the wedding itself was beautiful.
We were a team.
That was a big thing.
Yeah. We were a team. And that's one thing that I will say I think is very strong with our relationship is when we have fun, we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and when we are a team, we really go in it together.
And when we're in like a weird, awkward situation that we both know, we like own it together, and we know it's awkward and weird, and we own it. And so those are the
situations that bring us together the most. I think
when we have fun, we have a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
And the wedding was like a really big moment in that. Is that it wasn't for us. It wasn't our picture.
It wasn't, exactly. It wasn't for us. It was for our families.
It wasn't our picture of a wedding. It wasn't our... we didn't
choice
plan
time,
it. It wasn't our
theme,
choice. It wasn't anything that we had chosen.
Besides the blush that I convinced everyone to wear, that was such a big ordeal. My family did not want to wear it. But anyways, besides for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of fun together. And for anything bad and all the tough stuff that we work through, we have a lot of fun together, and we work really well together when we are on the same page.
Yeah. And that is definitely a strength of ours. And I think right now what we are learning is that no matter what our past is, if we want this relationship to work, we have to focus on our strengths and the things that bring us together and the positive aspects of our relationship, because it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter how we ended up together. I mean, it does matter to reflect on it and stuff like that, but it's not going to change. Like, the past is the past, and I think it's really great that just even by talking this out and doing this podcast, we're able to see some positive things about our relationship, even though we know that there was a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
And we'll use that to move forward.
Yeah.
So, high five. Go us.
Yeah, sounds good.
Making marriage work.
Just wrapping up, if you like this episode, feel free to subscribe to our channel and to our podcast.
Yeah, we have a YouTube where we'll be posting the videos, and
Michelle posted all of our podcasts on like Spotify, Apple Play, all platforms. So
and make sure to leave a review.
Yeah, leave us a review. We're definitely gonna read them at this point. We'll
That's
definitely
true.
read them. And give us some stars, whatever it is. Feel free to share with your friends or stuff like that.
Yeah, and thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And tune in for next episode.
Yeah, tune in for next episode and let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and as always, next episode will be equally as honest and juicy, so you don't want to miss it.